a show that tackles the big issues affecting the BVI and the rest of the Caribbean. Searches for answers to today's big questions and gives viewers a unique perspective on developing stories. Follow the big story with me, Kathy Richards, only on JTV. This show is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, Cyril B. Ramney Tertola Pier Park, NV Salon Spa Nail and Barbershop, the Wellness Center, Medical and Behavioral Health Clinics, Ticely Cross Deliciously Smooth Cider, HOV Medical, and Digicel. Sign up for Digicel Plus Home Light Bundles, faster internet, movies, and sports. Thank you so much for joining us here for this very special program today. I am here with a very energetic, vibrant young woman, Ronelle King. We heard so much about you, Ronelle, but first of all, I want to welcome you to these beautiful Virgin Islands.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Very soon, depends on when you are watching this program, we're going to be through the streets of Rotown, Tertola, with Zanta, with Win BVI, with Unite BVI, and a whole host of others with you as a main guest. And so I would love you to tell us, first of all, before why you're here, who you are.
Thank you. Well, my name is Ronelle King. I founded a nonprofit in 2016 called Life in Leggings, Caribbean Alliance Against Gender-Based Violence. And so we work at the intersections to empower women and girls who are survivors of, or who may have just experienced gender-based violence, to speak up and just provide resources on how they can just receive access to justice, and just larger advocacies of systems change and how we as a society could tackle this scourge that has a deep impact on the lives of women and girls in our region. So I'm here as a guest of Unite BVI and the wonderful organizations that they've partnered with to just raise awareness of the 16 days of activism, to talk about gender-based violence and, just how we can address this issue in our societies.
Okay, Ronelle, but why the decision to put all this energy of yours from 2016 to now? And I would have been reading a little bit about you and would have observed that between 2016 and 2021, every year you started a new initiative geared along that line. Why this urgent need to address the situation?
Well, if you look at the statistics, the regional statistics is 1 in 3, and in some countries it's as high as 1 in 2 women will and have experienced gender-based violence, and that is just really, really high. I started it from my own personal experiences as a survivor of gender-based violence, and I just felt as though that this was not normal. It's very normalized in our society, and I think that we can do better. I advocate from just the fundamental belief that all women and girls in our region should be able to just exist in public, private, and virtual spaces without fear of violence. And so I will invest as much energy as I have into moving the needle along. My work is not just my own. I see it as a continuation of all the women who've come before me, and just building that coalition, building that wavelength for the women who will come after me to do that work. But I'm just trying to carry the needle as far as I can.
You care to share some of your personal experience that would have inspired this mission?
So I would have been like a survivor of domestic violence. I also would have had a situation in the same year that I started where someone almost pulled me into a vehicle because I tried to decline a ride, and for me, that really impacted me in how I move around in public spaces. I realized shortly after, I felt very fearful of coming up my home. I still had to go to work, but it would really take a while to just leave. And despite people empathizing, I still have to go about my day. Still have to put food on the table, and we've been taught as women to push these things down. We have to get on. We have to do the day-to-day things, but that's not normal.
Okay, for some people, they would see most of the violence around that is not just necessarily targeted to women, but it also affects men. So why the direct relation to just gender base?
So violence, there are various forms of violence, but the types of violence that affect us based on gender is a little bit nuanced. So, for example, men and women do experience domestic violence, but women experience it much higher than men for various reasons. When you think of violence that specifically targets men, you think of like homicide, where they rack really high in comparison to women. So, you have to address it from a lens that gives space to how they experience it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to address it with a one fits all kind of approach, to be honest. So
Okay. So, what's the message you would have come here with to these Virgin Islands? I think you are originally from Barbados.
yes, I am. I mean, the message that I have is that this is not. I'm not saying that this is unique to the BVI. This is a global issue, but this is an issue that from even when we started our work, we recognized that we had a lot of similarities across the islands. How we experience domestic violence, how we experience the wider issues of gender-based violence in nuances. So, for example, I had experiences growing up that women as children could have related to, of walking around in public spaces in my school uniform and experiencing sexual harassment in ways that would appall people in global north countries that they don't see very normalized day to day, right? So you have to address it from your context. So I think that what I've come here to say is that this is not unique to the region, but we have a unique opportunity to build coalitions across the region to address this issue. If we're all working together, we have greater impact. So I'm here to show support to the women on the ground who are doing this work and saying that they're not alone in this. And I'm happy to be here to lend my voice to this cause, and that it's everyone's responsibility to address this issue. So my message out there to everyone is to find a way in which they can play a role in supporting a survivor, supporting an organization that helps survivors, or just challenging this in their spaces or communities. So, yeah.
If my memory serves me well, I think Girls Up is a part of this as well. The significance of us having young persons, not only girls, but young persons involved in awareness like this.
So the importance is that, again, these issues are very nuanced. How adolescent girls experience GBV is very different to adult women. And so the importance of having their voice is building their capacity to speak on these issues, how they're being impacted, but also how they can provide solutions to these issues, how they can be a part of the larger conversations of policy even, so that our solutions are not just well-intentioned, but they don't hit the mark.
Awesome. Well, I guess there is a whole lot more for you to share when you get on the microphone on Saturday. The march starts right here, as you can see from the background. We're at the Noel Lloyd Positive Action Movement Park, and that name alone in itself says a whole lot. The Positive Action Movement Park. A march is going to start off right here. I think it's going to go around to Waterfront Drive, come around the roundabout, I think down the Castro Street, and end right here in the Noel Lloyd Positive Action Movement Park from 1 p.m. on a Saturday. The sun is going to be up, but we are going to be good. Many of us are lacking in our vitamin D. So we're make good of it. There are going to be quite a number of organizations represented: Win BVI, Girls Up, Zonta, Unite BVI, and a whole lot more. We're looking forward to teachers encouraging students to come out, although it's not going to be a school day, but impress on parents to send their kids out. These are messages that we need to hear. Very often, when we talk about gender-based, sometimes it's misinterpreted as meaning to empower only women, and men tends to feel as though, you're just trying to become equal in power as them, but that's far from the situation, right?
So, I mean, just because you empower one group doesn't mean you're putting down another group, right?
Awesome.
And this is a perfect opportunity for men to come out there and support, the women who are marching, but also march for themselves in the ways in which they're impacted by gender-based violence. When I did our march in the region in 2017, one of the things that really stood out to the women that they really took close to their hearts were the men who came out and supported, the men who marched not only for the women in their lives, but these women who were strangers to them because they empathized with what they were going through and they just wanted to show up and support and let them know that they were not alone. So I encourage especially the men to come out in your numbers and support and stand in solidarity with the girls, especially who will be there, the women, who carry these things, these realities with them on a day-to-day basis. So just let them know that we support you, we see you, and we're working together.
Awesome. And for persons who are thinking that, this is kind of overplayed. It is not. In many cases, in societies, violence against women and young girls are downplayed. Very often we find young girls are being denied that opportunity to speak out because they are not believed when they speak, especially if it happens in their homes. But the one message that I would love persons to understand, having been a victim myself of child abuse, is that lives with you no matter how much therapy you go through. Every time you hear of another statistic, it reminds you of your past. And so it is very important for us to minimize and in fact eradicate violence against any persons, because for the rest of that person's life, they go with that. Yes, you become very strong. You put the positive things above it, but that lives with you.
Exactly. Just one person experiencing it is too much.
Yes.
And this is completely preventable violence, So I completely agree with you. This,
Awesome.
you don't get rid of this, move on from this. You carry this throughout your life. And the thing about trauma is that it lives within you, and it affects even the ways in which it affects other people. So, for example, me as a survivor of gender-based violence, I carry this anxiety. I have a daughter myself, and I live in a fear of her never experiencing this, and it affects the way that even I parent, things that I had to be conscious of and go to therapy for. So it carries on. So you have to look at it in that way as well.
Awesome. Well, you have a whole lot to hear, a whole lot more to hear and learn. So let's come out, let's show solidarity for persons who would have experienced some form of gender-based violence, and show them that there is strength beyond, and more than that, to spread that word that we need to have it stop. So we look forward to seeing you out on a Saturday from 1 p.m. Assemble at the Noel Lloyd Positive Action Movement Park, and let's get into action. Ronell, I want to thank you so much for gracing these beautiful Virgin Islands with your presence and with your message.
Thank you again for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
We know that where you choose to bank matters, and it is your vote on what your funds do in strengthening our community. As your official Bank of Paradise, we invest and support the lifeblood of our economy by helping in the realization of personal goals for homeownership, education, and entrepreneurial visions, which support small businesses. We make it our place to connect with persons and worthy causes, and we have been doing so for more than 30 years. Where your money goes and what your dollars empower are your choice. And we thank you for choosing us, a bank that gives where it matters the most, for you, for our community, and a happier tomorrow. The National Bank of the Virgin Islands.
Everyone looks to the future, but no one truly knows what the future holds.
The number of people under the age of 20 with type 2 diabetes could increase by 49% by 2050. Let it be known that we all have a 30% chance of developing hypertension.
Globally, more than 300 million people of all ages suffer from depression.
More than 60,000 young adults aged 20 to 39 are diagnosed with cancer each year. Obesity leads to problems such as stroke, heart disease, and kidney failure.
No matter your race, age, or color, we are all at risk.
These diseases can be managed or prevented if caught early.
But with the right medicine and the right doctors to keep us on a path to live a robust and healthy life,
We will live well.